Hello and welcome to eMultiskills video tutorial. In this video tutorial, we will learn what is a user role and a group in Postgresql. So the agenda of this tutorial is what is a user or a role in Postgre, what is public schema, what is a search path, and how do we revoke public from a role, how do we create a read-only role or read-write role, and how do we create a role, and then how do we grant privileges to the user which is created. The first one is the users and role. So what is a user and role in Postgre? When we say create user in Postgre, that means it is equivalent to create role plus login permission. That means the only difference between user and the role is user is able to log in, but the role will not be able to log in. And the role has its own advantage. So if I say a SQL statement to create the PostgreSQL user, so I'll just say create user, username, then with password, and I'll give the password. If I have to create the same user with the create role SQL statement, I'll say create role, role name, and the only additional thing which I have to add is with login, and then we need to give the password, and that's it. So in Postgre, create user is equal to create role plus login permissions. So by default, all the new users and roles, they inherit the permission from the public role, and we'll see how it plays an important role. So what is a public schema and public role? So whenever you create a new database, let's say you created a new database, DB1, then by default, when you check the schemas which are available in that particular database, so you will see a schema with the name public. That means a user who has access to this particular database will be able to select or create the objects in that particular schema. So it is by default, the design is like that. So all the new users and roles, they have the default access to the public role, and they can create the objects in the public schema, which is not good. Then what is the search path? If I'm connected to a database, let's say, which is called as DVD rental, and if I say select star from actor, actor is one of the table, and if I don't give the fully qualified name, then how Postgre will come to know like from which schema it has to pick the information. So that information is mentioned in something which is called as a parameter search path. If you log into Postgre prompt and say search path, show search path, it will show you two values. One is $user, another is public. Let's say if I'm connected to Postgre user on Postgre server, then by default, when you fire any query, it will search for a schema which is equivalent to the name of the user which is logged in. Let's say then it will look for that particular user. So by default, a schema with the same name will not be present. What is present is a public schema. So any user who is connected to that particular database will be able to see the objects or create the objects in the public schema. So as I mentioned, a DVD rental database, if I am just saying select a star from actor, then it will search, and I'm logged in through the Postgre. So it will try to look for the schema which is equivalent to the database username, which is not the case. So it will look the information in public schema. So instead of saying select a star from public uh, dot actor, I'll simply say select a star from actor. So it is going to search from the public. If you have a schema with the name, let's say Postgre, and your object is lying over there, then it will look into that and it will display the result. This value can be changed. You can change the schema name so that by default it will look into this. So that's the importance of the search path, and it plays a very important role. What you should do about the public schema, you should revoke any creation of object onto the public schema. Because if n number of users are using that particular database, and then it may be a messy task. So you should remove the create on schema public from the public, and you should also revoke all on database from public so that anybody cannot use that particular one. How do we create a role? Create role is it's very simple. It's you say create role, role name, and to that particular role, what you can do is, let's say I have an application, I wanted to create a read-only a role for some of the tables. So I can create the role, then I can say grant connect on that particular database. So my database in this case is DVD rental, then I can give access to this particular role, and that particular role can use the app schema if I have created a schema with the name. So you can do a lot of things with the role, and finally this role can be granted to the application user or the user which you have created. Also, what we can do is we can grant any kind of, let's say, select, insert, update, delete, whatever you wanted to do. But as the name suggests, it is a read-only schema. So I'm just going to give select on all the tables, or a table like actor or film to that particular role. Or what also you can do is you can give all table access on that particular schema to that particular role. So you created a blank role, you gave it connect access to the particular database, then you said like you use particular schema, then you gave select access on n number of tables, and this way it is very, very useful. So you create a role, and then how do we create a database user? So you simply say create user, username, then with password and password name. And finally, you can grant the role to the user. So any user who is joining that application, so any user in that application group, you can grant the role. So it is very convenient. So any changes which is happening to the app underscore read only will be applicable to all the users. They will be impacted. Any table which is added or removed, the impact will be on the role, and the role is finally granted to the user. And now there is a demo which is following up. So this is the demo. So let me close this presentation. And this is the demo. I have listed all the steps in the notepad, and we'll perform this either on the. So I'm connected through MobaXRAM on my server, which is on a Linux server 192.168.1.61, and I'm connected through the Postgre user, which is having the sudo access on this. So what I'm going to do is, so what we saw earlier is um, we are going to create a user, and we'll see how it is different from the role. So we say create user is equal to create role plus the login permission. So I'm just going to create a user. Let's name it as create user app user one with password which is equal to the password. Not a good practice, but this is a demo, so we are using this. This is the wrong password. The role is created. You can see uh, the user is created app user. So where is the app user one? So this is the app user one, and there is no attributes, cannot log in. That means it is able to log in. That is the only difference between user and the role. Roles cannot connect to the it's not able to log in, but uh, uh, user is able to do that. If I create a role, let's say app user role one, and If I say with login, then it is equivalent to the create user statement. So that is what we discussed in the first slide. Create user is it's already existing. So let's create another one. App role 2. So if I say /du, you will be able to see app role 2 and it is able to log in. Next one is what is a public schema and public role. They just to showcase this, I'll log into the pgadmin GUI tool and I'll connect to my database, which is on Linux environment, and I'll connect to the database, which is DVD rental. So here we go with the DVD rental. And what happens? Let me delete the role which I have created. Okay, so I have a database with the name DVD rental, and when I created it, it was a blank database. So whenever you create a database, you get a schema which is called as the name public. That means any user who is having the access on this particular database will be able to use public schema. That means any object which is created will go into this. Let's say if I say I'm connected through the Postgre user in DVD rental database, and if I say create table A, so that table will be created in public schema. So that's the way. If you wanted to use a specific schema for the particular user, you need to create using the create schema command. So we'll see right away how to use that. Search path. So I'm connected as Postgre user, and let's see how many databases we have. Let's go to DVD rental, and I'm switched on to the DVD rental database. If I say let me see the data tables we have. We have actor table, and it is there in the public schema. If I say select star from actor or select count star from actor, I don't want to display the entire details onto the screen. I'll be able to get the details, but how Postgre is knowing, how the server is knowing from which schema it has to pick it up. So I'm connected to the DVD rental database, and there is only one schema, which is public schema. And there is something called as search path. If I say show search path, I'll be able to see two things. One is $user and another is public. So by default, if a user is connected, let's say my username is app user, then it will look for the schema whose name is equivalent to the user which is connected. If that is not present, it will look for the object in the public schema. So either I say select count star from actor, or if I give fully qualified name, which is schema name dot uh, the table name, it will display the same item. So if I just wanted to omit using the schema name, I need to mention the value in search path, and that can be set. All right. What we will do is we will do a small demo. We will, as a best practice, we will revoke privileges from the public role. So let's do that. So we'll say revoke create on schema public from public, and revoke all on database DVD rental from. Just in this demo, what we are doing is we are using DVD rental as the database. I'll go to the pgadmin, and we will do it over there. So let me connect to DVD rental. Then I say query tool, so it will open a query editor. and we will execute all the statements from there. All right. So what I'm saying is we will revoke creator. So by default, nobody will be able to use that schema. And on all the database DVD rental, so that will also be revoked. So just execute this, either F5 or execute. Both will work. Okay. This is done. Now what we are going to do is we are going to create a role which is app read only, then create role name, then we are going to say uh, it is going to connect to the database DVD rental, then we are going to create a schema, app schema, then we are saying just use that particular schema, and then we are going to select all tables in that particular schema, and that will be granted to that particular role. Let us create this particular role. We use the command prompt or the GUI tool, but it is good to watch it over here. So create role, then connect privilege, then create a schema, then grant usage on the schema, and then all the tables in that particular schema will be given the select access to that particular role, and that's it. Role already exists, so let me drop the role. So let's drop it, and then we'll execute it. Okay, so there are, let me change it instead of, so we'll say, we'll create a new role, which is app read and only underscore one. We'll say replace all, and we are going to use this. And we are using pgadmin 4. I'm just clearing the screen, and we are creating a new role. It's very, very easy. There is nothing tricky in this. So this, it is displaying the last message. So this is completed. Now we are going to create a read write role. Here what we are saying is in read only role we gave only the select access. Here what we are going to say, we are going to give insert update delete on all the tables in that particular schema. So let's create role read write. Let me see if that role is available or it is not. Okay. So read write. Okay, it is not. So let's execute this. So we are going to create a role read write, then it is giving the connect access on DVD rental. Then we are going to create a schema, app schema, which is already created. And you can use the name according to your requirement, and we'll execute all this statement. Read write already exists. So let me create, instead of read write, we'll say app underscore read write 1. Let's create the role. It's very, very easy. It is done. The next one is we'll create a user which is called as app reporting user 1. We'll give some password, then we will create another user app reporting 2. Then um, Then what we are going to do is we are going to grant the privileges. So this we have seen earlier also. There is nothing special. It is just the user and the role. The only difference is they have login access. This is done. And finally, the roles which we have created can be assigned to the user. So, so we had app read only, and we have app read write one. So let's grant all this. So this object level things are very useful when you work for the application team and you have to grant some kind of access on the tables or a schema to the roles, and that role has to be assigned to the user. So just to recap what we have done, we have seen what is a user. User is nothing, just a create role plus login permission. Then we saw what is public schema. Public schema is something which is available by default in our database, which is newly created, and the user has the access on that, which is connected to that particular database, and then they can create the objects into that. That is not a good practice to have that in place, but it is by design, so you should remove the access over there. Then we saw something as search path. If you say show search path, it will show you two value $user, comma public. That means a user which is connected to a particular database by default. It will look into the schema with the same name as the user connected. If that is not available, it will search for the objects, or it will create the objects which is there in the public schema. So instead of saying select star from table, uh, or instead of giving the fully qualified name, select star from schema.table, you simply say select star from table. Then it will check this criteria, and if it is validated, it will display the results. Then we saw how to create the user. Then we created a role, read-only role. Then we created a read-write role, and then we created two users, and then we assigned the roles to the user. I hope this is going to work, and thanks for watching.